Is Canelo Alvarez vs. Terence "Bud" Crawford the biggest fight in boxing? My answer? It definitely is one of the biggest fights in boxing happening right now, and just in general overall. Now, the absolute only reason I'm not calling this the definitive biggest fight in boxing is because there are major fights that are going to happen in the future, or in the near future, I should say, because Canelo vs. Crawford is September 13th, but a few months before that, on July 19th, Manny Pacquiao will be returning in a championship bout against Mario Barrios, and that fight will be huge on its own, and we'll talk about that in another video. But I would say Canelo vs. Crawford is the biggest fight in boxing, but we have bigger fights like that, because the reason that's a bigger fight is because Manny Pacquiao is one of the biggest legends in the sport of boxing nowadays. When fans think of boxing, they think of Manny Pacquiao, or people like Canelo Alvarez, or Ryan Garcia, or Tank Davis. Those are the fighters you think about when you think about boxing nowadays, because those are the faces of boxing. Now, if we're looking at a definitive face of boxing, that is easily hands down Canelo Alvarez. But if we're just looking at top fighters nowadays, all those names are top fighters. All of them having performed recently within this year, except for Manny Pacquiao, which he will be fighting in July, so technically he is fighting this year. But yeah, the only reason this isn't definitively the biggest fight in boxing is because of Pacquiao vs. Barrios in July. If that fight wasn't happening, or it happened later, then hands down Canelo vs. Crawford would have been the biggest fight in boxing. And even though it may not be the biggest fight, it is definitely almost the biggest fight of boxing, because this fight will be streamed on Netflix. Netflix is free to people who have gotten it, which means the fight will be free to the people who have subscriptions to Netflix, just like the Paul vs. Tyson fight. But the only difference is, with Paul vs. Tyson, that even got non-boxing fans interested. But with this fight, Canelo vs. Crawford, mainly I only see boxing fans actually tuning in. So this won't be as successful as Paul vs. Tyson, I don't think, but it will definitely be damn well close, because this is still on Netflix. This fight is still free to watch, and there's plenty of boxing fans. So it may not get better numbers than Paul vs. Tyson, but it will still get big numbers. And Manny Pacquiao versus Mario Barrios, well, that's different. It's pay-per-view on Prime Video, so there will be less viewers possibly because you have to pay more, and it's on a lesser known streaming service, which is Prime Video. But that type of fight is definitely gonna only, just like Canelo vs. Crawford, be interesting for boxing fans. They're not gonna pique the general interest of the public who are not boxing fans. So although these two fights will be extremely big, they won't be big as Paul vs. Tyson. But all I'm here to say is really Canelo Alvarez and Terence "Bud" Crawford do have the ability to be the biggest fight of this year, possibly outbidding Pacquiao versus Barrios. The only reason Barrios and Pacquiao are even in this is because Pacquiao is fighting Barrios. If Mario Barrios was fighting this just random fighter, then nobody would really have an interest. Of course, Mario Barrios is a fantastic fighter. He even has a championship belt, but he doesn't pique the general interest who aren't a fan of boxing. So the only reason why this is a fight that is huge and that will bring in so many numbers is because of the Pacquiao name, and because he is fighting Manny Pacquiao. But as of Canelo and Crawford, that fight is big either way, because both fighters are big names in the sport. Canelo Alvarez is literally the face of boxing, and you could ask almost any boxing fan, they'll say the same thing. And Terence Crawford is a very, very popular boxer himself with a stunning record, and he is undefeated and a world champion. So there's nobody in this fight that is specifically bringing all the viewers like Pacquiao versus Barrios. There will be fans of Canelo coming to see Canelo win, and there will be fans of Terence Crawford to see Terence Crawford win, and also general boxing fans who don't really care about the result or care about the fighters of Canelo Alvarez or Terence Crawford, and are just there to watch a fun, awesome boxing match, because that's what's gonna come out of this whole event. So is this the biggest fight in boxing? Well, if you're not looking at Pacquiao versus Barrios, yes, this is the biggest fight in boxing, and the biggest fight in boxing that we've had in a very long time. That isn't a cash grab like Paul versus Tyson was, but easily second place is Pacquiao versus Barrios. But like I said, we'll talk about that in another video. But as for this video, the answer is yes, this is basically the biggest fight in boxing as of right now. But that is all I have for this video. Thank you guys for watching. Like, subscribe, comment, and I'll see you guys on the next video.